What's up, guys? Langosta and JoJo here.
How's it?
Today, we're going to be talking about preparing for emergency situations. For those of you who don't know, California's been on fire for 4 weeks. So a lot of mayhem going on here, and we got an in-studio guest. We're going to be talking about how you should prepare for the next crises of societal decay and bad decisions.
People were wondering, okay, well, what if we ended up in this situation? What would we do?
Yeah.
And
are you prepared?
Are you prepared?
Yeah. So do you have a go bag?
What does prepared look like?
That's right.
And talking about that go bag, I can tell you that while the fires were going on, my wife's texting me like, hey, I'm getting a bag prepared, albeit we're like 12 miles away from the actual fire. And, you know, family are checking in on you, but you can never be prepared enough. And that's going to be tonight's topic.
So let's get into it, guys.
Let's get into it.
What's up, guys? Langosta here, and my good friend JoJo.
How's it? Once again,
we've got a heck of a show with an in-studio guest.
Yes, we do. We have Chris Reidel here from Echo Sigma Emergency Systems, because we are going to be talking about go bags as well as bug out bags and what you should be prepared with. So, Chris, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Definitely happy to have you here because, again, you know, really what sparked the situation is the fires here in California, and there's so many different types of emergency situations, and it's all about preparedness. It's all about, are you ready for what's about to happen? And you never know what's going to happen. And, you know, I thought no better time to bring you on the show as a part of Echo Sigma, again, emergency systems. And we'll go into more details in regard to the name, how it came about, and everything that you and your company and your family-owned company are producing to make life for us more prepared for situations that, you know, no one ever knows when it's going to happen.
That's right. It's one of those things where, unfortunately, people don't do anything about it until something bad happens, and that's kind of when they react and they think, "Oh, I got to get prepared. What do I have? What do I need?" They don't think about that until something goes awry.
Right. And what we want to do is make sure that everybody's prepared. And again, Chris is going to be sharing with us a lot of information in regard to preparedness, emergency preparedness. He's going to be showing us some go bags, a bug out bag, and all of that good stuff. And what I will start with is Langosta. Chris and I met on an adventure of our own.
That's right.
Oh yeah, where'd you guys meet?
So we met on a fishing trip. So we went on the Ranger 85, and we featured it as a part of another podcast. And it was the Ranger 85 trip. We went on a tuna trip, and then, you know, whenever you go out on a long range boat for a few days, you've got a lot of shipmates that, you know, you're praying for that are gonna be catching fish along your side. And Chris, that was a great trip, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh, you know it. It had been since I was 18 years old since I went on a real 3-day fishing trip, and I'll tell you more about that as we go along tonight. That's kind of got me into where I am today with survival.
Awesome. And it was a great trip. It was a Ranger 85 out of San Diego. A bunch of the club members went on. Yeah. It ended up being a sponsored trip by Stoked on Fishing.
I remember you guys talking about that. Yeah, that sounds like I missed a great time.
Yeah, you could have seen my son over here eating a live tuna heart.
Yeah, you're the victim of a fresh kill, son. It happens often.
Tell us about that. So was that like kind of like that was the goal to kind of take Lincoln, right?
Yep.
Lincoln on the trip and catch him his first big tuna.
Yes, we went to Hawaii and fished. We've gone through lakes, and poor guy's caught nothing. Like, just he'll sit in the back in the captain's chair for 8 hours, sun beating on him, and get no love with fishing. And so I said, out of San Diego, tuna season, we're going to catch some fish.
Oh, and what a trip it was. Tell us a little bit about it,
Yeah,
Chris.
we caught it.
Highlight it for me. Bring back my memories.
We'll give you this, that I remember the first night we all got up at like midnight, and I was randomly the first one to hook up. I caught like a 45 pound or something like that at, I don't know, 2 a.m. and
It's not a bad first hookup.
oh man, and then
That'll wake you up if you're nodding off. A 45-pounder will wake you up.
We
I think
went to
everybody
bed
was nodding off.
for like 2 hours, 3 hours, got up, and we went the whole next day. And my buddy my son Lincoln over here, he caught one early, and the Stoked on Fishing had him eat the heart, beating in his hand.
Yep.
And he ate it and then spit the rest of it out. And then we hit like 200 fish that day in like
baby.
12 hours. So
It was the trip of all trips. It was a great tuna trip on
What
the
was
Ranger
the fish
85.
count? You remember?
it was like 240 fish, I think,
That's
in
amazing.
3 days.
That's
And-
amazing.
And we were like 12 miles out each way. So we had a lot of time floating too,
That's
before we got to
amazing.
fish.
Oh
That's
yeah,
amazing.
no doubt. And we discovered muscles that we never knew we had, because after you fight one tuna and then you're on to your fourth tuna, it's just like, what the heck is
45
keeping me
pounders are
going?
they're not easy. I mean, they're a nice workout.
At one point, I remember JoJo saying, "Oh man, I need a break. Hey Lincoln, get over here. I got one on for you." And you're throwing the pole over to Lincoln, and he's rolling, trying to bring it in.
Yes,
it was
sir.
so fun.
You had a great time, right, Lincoln?
So Lincoln, you like fishing or you like catching better? I like fishing. Yeah, everybody likes fishing better than catching. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I like catching better than fishing. Fishing means you're sitting out there not catching anything. When you're catching, you're catching.
But if you're fishing and catching a beverage, that's not too bad
Well,
itself.
that's like the downtime. We got to do something to figure it out.
Lincoln likes the poke bowls we've been making ever since, every other couple of weeks.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely everybody filled up their freezers. So, it was awesome kind of going on that trip, meeting everybody. And then obviously, Chris, we got to talking story and then learned about kind of what you were doing in regard to Echo Sigma. And I was just intrigued. And the moment we hit back land, I was telling kind of all my buddies, hey, man, we met this guy, Chris, his son Lincoln, when we were on the boat. They got this great company. They got bug out bags, go bags. It's Echo Sigma. And, that always kind of was in my mind. And when this situation came up and you and I were in contact, and it was like, hey, man, one time we got this podcast going on, Rifles, Rods, and Broads. Let's bring you on the show. Let's talk about it. So it's no better time than now to make sure that everybody's prepared. So tell us a little bit about Echo Sigma and, how it came about and what you're up to, what you're doing, what our viewers, what our listeners can, find in Echo Sigma.
Sure. So I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I've bought and sold several businesses. My dad was this way, and I kind of saw him my whole life doing this. And I just loved his lifestyle, that he was always able to work when he wanted to work and have time for family. Never miss any of my college baseball games or things at school. He was always there. And I always admired that lifestyle. And first out of college, I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car for several years, and I'm working 70 hours a week, making pennies on the dollar and going, what am I doing? This is not for me. So I started buying businesses, building them up, and then selling them. Well, in 2017, found Echo Sigma, and it was in its early on stages, like 2 years old. And there was such a love for the outdoors and preparedness and getting people what they need in case of emergencies. I just can't get rid of it. I just love it. It's been the best thing for our family. It's allowed us to do so many things, go on vacation together and teach people about survival, and just really been such a fun job that I don't want to get rid of it. I just can't. I love it.
What attracted it to you in the first place?
It was marketed as a first aid business, but when I went and met the owner and I saw what he was doing, I'm like, this is not first aid. This is more than that. This is long-term food and water. This is what you need in case an earthquake, the power goes out. How are you going to survive? And I just saw so much growth potential in this. And it's in the higher end market of survival companies. So our bags are going to be there when you need them. For example, a lot of survival kits you'll get, there'll be a battery in the plastic flashlight. Well, when you need it, whenever that happens, a lot of times the battery's corroded in there, and then it's not going to work. And so we do a lot of things differently to make sure that you're going to get the best product out there that's going to be there when you're ready for it.
So let's kind of answer, I think, some of the questions that folks would have. So what's the difference between a go bag and the other type of bag that you had mentioned?
Well, a go bag and a bug out bag are similar. It's kind of a terminology thing. So a go bag is what you get when you got to go. You got to get out of the house. The fire's next door. Okay. You get it and go.
So you'd have like your essentials for short term, would you say? Or?
Yes. 1 to 3 days is like a go bag. So something where it's going to be power out. You don't know how long it's going to last, but you don't anticipate it being a long time.
Okay.
A bug out is going to be more of a bigger situation. It still gets generally thrown in the same sentence, but a bug out's like, okay, we got to get out of here because there's a hurricane coming. We need a longer survival situation preparedness. So more food, more water, more tools. It just, honestly, they both kind of go hand in hand. It's very different depending on who you talk to. Like the news this last few weeks with the fire, everyone's calling it a go bag. But online, you're hearing a lot of the word bug out bag.
Yeah.
So they're very, very similar. It's just usually for a longer scenario of survival preparedness.
What do you think is the biggest thing that people are missing? Like when, I've been bugging my daughter and my wife. I've always had some type of an emergency bag in my cars and my trucks, right? And I've been bugging them to get their act together. I bought an empty bag, and so I gave them the essentials, what I think are required for first aid, right?
Yep.
So stuff for bleeding, stuff for punctures, tourniquet, that type of stuff. Very, very basic but essential first aid or trauma response type stuff. But in there, I told them that they should have things that they're going to need, very practical things, like you mentioned, a flashlight. Most people don't have a flashlight. It's probably of the things that I carry in my pocket of my everyday carry, my flashlight's probably the one I use the most.
Yeah.
That and like a small pocket knife to open up packages and stuff, right? So what do you think is the biggest thing missing from people's go bags? Or
there's a few essentials. I think a lot of times, depending on what happened in the situation you're going through, it's if you're stranded somewhere and your car broke down and you're not around population and it's going to be a longer time, you need to have like a pen and paper to think about, write down where you are, what time this happened, make notes, try to keep yourself in a good mental state. People they get down like the movie Castaway, and you don't know who you are, what you've become. And so you forget to really hone in on yourself and breathe slowly and think about what you need to get through each moment, right? And so there's things like, yes, you need a flashlight, you need a good knife to open a coconut or whatever it may be, but there's so many simple things that have so many uses. For example, I'll give you a silly example that in your dryer at home, if you pull out the lint, throw it in a Ziploc bag, throw it in your go bag. It's a great tinder for fire.
Yeah, fire starter, yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that you don't have to pay for, and you just throw it in your bag and you have it. Tourniquet, you mentioned that earlier. That's one of the best survival things to have. You never know when you're going to come up across an accident, side of the road. That can save someone's life, just having a tourniquet.
Yep.
I've heard of so many different situations where it's like you think to yourself, you're never ever going to need a tourniquet. But when you hear stories of when one was used, you kind of put yourself in that scenario like, oh man, I've been in those situations before, never thought of that happening. And it's happened to people in the past.
Yeah.
And, having that tourniquet saved lives and limbs.
You've got 15 seconds to put it on, and you got 30 seconds to tighten it. And that's it.
Yeah.
On you or whomever else is injured.
You got to mark down when you put it on so the doctor knows how long it's been on for.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention another thing is paracord. 550 specifically paracord. One of the best things you can have. You can use that as a tourniquet. You can open up the braids and make a fishing line, which we would probably try in the water sometime. You can light it on fire. There's so many uses for paracord. You can make shoes with branches and leaves and tie it all together. I mean, that's one of the best things is some good 550 paracord.
So when you, as Echo Sigma, started putting together your bags, like, what was kind of the journey? Where did it start? And then where did it grow in terms of, I'm sure as you're going through this process, it's like, oh, we have this, and then, oh, we should add this. We should add this. We should add this. So what was that process like for you?
We worked with a lot of first responders, for medical, for outdoor Army, Navy guys, all these guys that have a lot of training on going out and surviving with nothing, right? And they would talk about the most essential things that you always need. A shovel would be great for so many things to dig. You're out there and you don't think clearly when you're in the middle of that situation. Your mind is not relaxed and ready to go for it, right? So you really have to slow yourself down. Like, it's kind of like with sports. I think the best athletes are the ones that can slow the game down. And when you're in that situation, when survival's happening, you got to be able to slow yourself down, slow your heart rate down, and see what you need. So we talked to so many of these guys that are Green Berets and that are the frogs out there doing their thing, right? And we're really learning from them, hey, you got to have good hand warmers, you got to have good work gloves that aren't going to break on you. There's so many different things, and trial and error. So many times we've done this until we got down to the best 15, 20 things. And then we kind of expanded to other types of survival, or like alien hunter bags. We kind of got some fun. We got contacted by like The Walking Dead. So we made a zombie bag.
Oh, that's cool.
And we put in things it sounds funny, but all these things we have are real life scenario tools, like night vision goggles. Mm-hmm. You break down in the middle of the night somewhere and you don't have power, you got night vision goggles. You can check everything out and see what you need to do.
What did the Special Forces or Navy SEAL guys, what was their bit of kit that they recommended that surprised you?
It was the quality, which is, I think, what really helped us is you got to spend the extra money to get the good stuff because you want it to work for you when the going gets tough.
Yeah,
you got to have a good knife, not just a knife for $5. Those will work in the pinch, but you don't know how long this is going to last, and you got to have the good tools. So we partnered with SOG and Gerber and like the highest end brands out there to get the best quality. So if something happens, you can count on it's going to be there for you. And then another thing is weight.
That was my next thing. So what's the average weight of kind of like the beginner bag, what you would consider the beginner bag?
Yeah, so our beginner bag is 18 pounds. That's from 1 to 3 days of survival, and that's mostly because of the food and water we give you. A lot of other companies don't give you the water. You got to make your own, which we give you that option as well with filters and so forth. But like I said, you're going through these scenarios, you're not thinking in your right mind all the time, so you need a little bit of help, right? And if you have purified water already to get you on the right track, it helps. But weight is everything. We'll have helicopter pilots say, hey, I need a bag in case I go down. It's got to be less than 6 pounds. Build me one. And so we take that into consideration a lot of different times for all these different scenarios.
What the context is. Yeah, I think the context is important of what it is that you're planning for. So like, I think, I go out to a place in the desert often, and, it's amazing to me how many people go from LA to Vegas and have almost no water in the car in the middle of the summer or even early spring, right? And man, you're a couple hours, no water, waiting for a tow truck or something. It's not going to be a happy time.
Right. And if you have that water, maybe it's for your car, not using for you, but you got to cool it down. There's so many different uses. It's not just for you. These things are going to help you. You never know where it's going to be. We were at the Little League field. I remember and the canopy blew off the top and no one knows how to fix it. I'm like, oh, we got zip ties. Let's just do that. And zip ties work for that too. Zip tie is one of the greatest things out there.
Yeah, I think having like one of those go bags or a bug out bag, that's exactly, you run into those scenarios. And as you mentioned, and as we're talking about, it's one of those things that you don't want to have to think about. And if you have confidence in the fact that you have a go bag that has the essentials for so many days or a certain amount of situation, it just kind of gives you that confidence. And we can never, I don't think anyone can ever come up with the scenario that you're going to run into, because most of the things that happen you never expect. As you're just talking, some people might think, oh, it's a 3.5 hour drive to Las Vegas with no traffic. Yeah. But, you never expect that, like, hey, something's going to happen. Well, your car could break down and you could be out of water. And it's like, or you could be out of some sort of food or something like that. And you rationed yourself and, you have that go bag that's there for you. And that may seem like, oh, I'll never end up in that situation, but you never know.
That's truer words have never been spoken. It's one of those things where a lot of people don't want to go buy one. It's like, I don't really want to spend $300 on a good bag. But once you do, you get that tax refund. That's the best time to do it, or it's the best gift for Christmas, because believe me, your family will thank you if they ever need to use it.
Yeah. Right? And it's comfort knowing that it's in the car. Yeah. Because I know for a fact that, I'll have some go bags or some bug out bags in my car, as well as my wife's. I've been in situations before too. And I think everybody's been in situations, and this isn't just like, hey, we're going to be out, we need this bag for 1 to 3 days. You may need something like this that just accounts for the situation. So your example in regard to, the pop-up tents and it blowing away and it breaking and you need zip ties. Well, that's in the bag, that's in your car. You could be in any given situation. And I've been there before where somebody asks for something in particular. I can't really come up with the example right now. What's the first thing you do? Oh, let me go see if I have something for that.
Yeah.
And
well, last year, to your point, I think the biggest mistake that people make, and from enjoying going out into the woods, hunting and spending a lot of time out there, dry camping and tents and stuff. I think the biggest mistake people make is that they somehow figure, whether it's just apathy and they don't want to spend, or they don't want to spend the money on the thing, but they expect somebody else to have it.
Yeah.
So last year, actually the year before last, we went hunting in Zimbabwe. I was told, like, hey, my wife's like looking at all my stuff, all my gear, and she like sees all of the first aid stuff. I've got two significant bags. One that's small that I just throw over my shoulder when we go in the safari truck, and one that's at camp. Anyway, long story short, the skinner was gutting one of the animals, and he cut himself with my knife. He's like, your knife's very sharp. And I was like, well, yeah, it's supposed to be. But he gave himself quite a whack on his hand, right? And I have I don't leave the truck without extra ammo and the first aid bag.
Yep.
And I had some surgical tape, and to your point, we used the water bottles to irrigate the cut and wrap it up. And believe me, his hands it was a crock, and the swampy, nastiest water. I mean, looking at it, you look like it was malaria, like you were going to catch malaria from that water. So we, I cleaned up his finger, and he pinched it, and I wrapped him up, and he finished. He was like, I'm good.
Well, because you had that. That's all it takes.
You have it. The truck was 2 miles from where we were.
Yeah.
What are you gonna be like? Hey, go send somebody. So it depends on the emergency, right? But my point is that you can't sub out your personal safety. If you're gonna say, hey man, like I'm responsible for me, I'm responsible for my family, for my kids, you can't just say I'm gonna hope that somebody else has XYZ. So I would say that's the biggest the biggest mistake that people make, is to somehow think that they're gonna call 911, or the paramedics are gonna come, or somebody else will be available to rescue you when you need them the most. Mm-hmm. And that's just not the case.
The fact that less than half the population has no preparedness in their house or in their car.
I believe that.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I believe that.
I'd actually think that it's probably more.
Is it crazy, right?
People just don't prepare. They live in the moment. They live for the moment. And then when something goes down, it's just like this, where am I? They're in this bubble.
You get a 401 error. I don't know what to do. Error. Yeah. That's what what happens to people. They're just stuck there. Like, if you ever see somebody after a car accident, there's like spectators like, look at the blood off that guy.
Yeah.
That dude, whoa, that dude's missing a finger. But nobody's like, hey dude, pinch that. Let's wrap it up. Let's get some bandages on it. So anyway, I've spent quite a few bucks on training for cuts and punctures, because look, if you go hunting, the likelihood of you getting shot or somebody getting shot or hurt like that, it goes up versus crocheting.
Yeah.
Right. If you did some crocheting or bingo as your pastime, the likelihood is zero that you're going to deal with a gunshot or laceration or something like that. Right. But if you're in the mountains, you're hiking, you're in the woods,
remote area,
there's no,
you have no idea what's going to happen, whether or not, you're walking outdoors, so you could be on slippery surfaces, rocks. Sure. There could be tree branches. You never know when you're going to end up in the situation where you need certain things that normal people just aren't carrying on them, because it's just like that thought doesn't exist until you're put into the moment. And then, what we don't want to do is have people say, oh, I'm too late. I should have had this. I should have had that. What we want people to say is, I have
proactive
this and I have that. And proactive is a key word, right? And you never know when the situation is going to take place. And I'll walk down Costco aisles, and now they have those buckets with just, hey,
50-year
prepare for an emergency. This is going to last however many years. Just boil water, put it in this bag, and you've got food. But it's not just about food.
Nope.
Food is one piece of the puzzle.
Sure. Well, let me tell you guys about kind of what you're talking about right now. It goes back to fishing, and it also talks about survival. My last big fishing trip before I took Lincoln, I was 18. Mm-hmm. It was a Sunday the 13th. We were in Mexico. We were going for a week. My dad and I, and a bunch of his investment crew. All these guys are 70s and 80s. I'm the only kid on the boat. And we push off from shore. We're maybe 1,000 yards out. Engine turns off. Okay, so one of the guys dives off the back of the boat and swims to shore. That's interesting. And then 30 minutes later, he swims back to shore. And so then they're down in the engine room, and they're welding, and they're lighting stuff up. And all of a sudden, we're on the second deck, just hanging out, getting ready for our first 24 hours out to sea. And we see fire. And
coming out of the engine.
In the engine room.
Yeah, that's bad.
More fire. And the first level is where you have your clothes, your driver's license, your money, your car keys, your fishing gear, everything. So they see this flames coming out the bottom of this boat. This is a 100-foot boat called the Poseidon. Okay, eerily interesting, right? Not kidding. Fun fact is, it was the Ranger 85 or the Poseidon out of H&M to go on our trip, and I picked the Ranger 85.
But that Poseidon had nothing to do with the Poseidon that you're talking about.
Correct. So next thing you know, we're being towed in, and the tide has gone out, and so now the cement dock is 15 feet above the level of the boat, and we get all these older gentlemen off the boat. I have a pair of shorts, a pair of shoes, and a hat. Nothing else. I get off the boat. Everything else burns up. And they towed the boat to the middle back of the harbor. Mushroom cloud, because there's 10 50-gallon drums of gas on the boat for all the pongas. And that's my story. And I live because of that, right? We didn't have money to get home. We didn't have car keys or passport to get back across the border. We didn't know what we were going to do. We just figured it out. And when things like that happen to you, it scares you straight, right? And so going through that, I always wanted to have whatever I needed. And I couldn't do anything about that situation. I was just fish out of water, literally. And what are you going to do? How are you going to get home? And we don't have anything. Borrow money, drive back from Mexico, jimmy someone's car keys to make our car start, cut off the club steering wheel, which was the thing back in the day.
Yeah.
And our first fishing trip was that trip since that day.
Wow.
30 years ago.
Well, I wouldn't go fishing after that trip for a long time.
It took me a while.
It happened to me too. That sounds like an unmitigated disaster.
Right? That we weren't ready for, didn't know what's going to happen. So that gets back to what you're talking about. You never know what's going to happen.
You never know. I mean, and you can't make this stuff up. I mean, anything can literally happen. And I'm pretty sure as, you develop the company in Echo Sigma and started coming up with these bags that, consumers who are smart and have them available for themselves, their families, I'm sure you've come across a lot of stories that have not only kind of opened eyes in terms of oh man, this bag would have been perfect, or hey, we have something for you. However, based on what you said and your own experience, we know how we can improve it.
I remember we had a customer about a year ago who called me, wanted a bag, but did not want to spend $300 for a bag. I just see other stuff out there, Chris. I can make my own. I don't see the what's the point of spending this much money for a go bag. And we talked for an hour that day, and then it took him another 2 weeks to finally place the order. Well, then it turned out he had a situation where he got into a really bad spot, and he broke down in the desert, and for a week he had nothing but the bag that we gave him in his car, right? That he put in his car.
No kidding.
And he goes, you know what? After this experience, when you're going through it, money is nothing to you. I'd rather spend them. I'm so glad that you talked me into spending the money for the real good stuff, because it was there when I needed it. I had enough food, water, I had the tools. I opened some cans, and it's worth it. It's a not a fun expense to step up and buy the stuff, but man, you get the good quality, it's going to be there and it'll save your life.
I think that people have to look at this in the context of it actually happening. I think most people, when they give you pushback on the price, and that goes for a lot of different things that are mission critical. When you understand what it is that you're protecting, hey man, do you want, my dad would put together these little go bag things. We were kids, right before the term go bag existed, and he had these ever ready. You remember those old plastic flashlights?
Yep.
It's shit.
Yes.
With the rabbits.
Shit.
Yes.
If that bag is getting banged around in my dad's truck for 6 months, you turn it on and there's no light.
No way it's gonna work.
the light's on, but there's just no light.
Yeah.
So if you have a context of what it is that you're protecting, or what it is that you're trying to mitigate, right? I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't become that expensive after all. Plus, when you're in the pinch, to your point, there'll be no money that will not pay.
Right.
So what, you got a bag here in front of you? Maybe
walk
us through a little bag dump of what you got.
You mentioned EDC earlier.
Yeah.
This is our EDC. So it's going to be a couple tools inside that this mollies and straps on to all of our other bags. And this is not cheap. It's about almost $300.
Okay.
But you have fire starters in here. You have, you have a little SOG fire starter. This all comes apart into several different pieces.
So you got a little light stick.
You got a spark in here. Yeah. We have a dark energy car charger. This is one of the newer generation. They got to have a charged phone, right?
Oh, that's nice.
So this is it's waterproof, shockproof, almost bulletproof,
and it's actually very thin.
Yeah, this holds 4 chargers for your phone for 2 years,
wow.
and they won't go away. So if you don't use them, it's going to hold 4 chargers for 2 years. And you can recharge whenever you want.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Charge your computer, things like that. Nowadays, the generation, we got to have our laptop, our stuff devices charged, right? And then we have other kind of flashlight we talked about, knives in here, all kinds of small, easy to handle tools that can fit in your glove box of your car. And it's just an add-on to one of our other bags, but it's just a really good small piece that if you got to go real quick, grab it and go. It's less than a pound and it has what you need.
You know, I was driving back from the Keys last week, and I forgot. I was in the rental, and I forgot the charging cable for my phone. My freaking phone died.
That's an emergency.
I needed
itself.
the phone for the GPS. So you know, my wife luckily had hers was in good shape, but I'm thinking like just a very simple thing like how irritating if you just have that as part of your setup, right?
Yep.
You just plug my thing and I don't need the cable. Like this idea of having redundancies to a certain extent makes a lot of sense to me.
One is none, two is one. And we've said that before. And I think the other point here too is, and I'll speak for myself, right? When I go out shopping and I'm looking for certain things, one of the first things that I think about is the price. And I think when it comes to emergency responses, we as people kind of think of an error is let's see what we can find for the cheapest value or the lowest price. But similar to what you guys were all talking about, right? I think we've all seen those flashlights that were made of plastic and as they're banging around in the truck, and then when you really need them, they just don't work.
It's just garbage.
But quality is priceless when it comes to emergencies, because what you need is something that is going to work.
To solve the problem.
To solve the problem. And I know when I was talking to you on the boat and kind of just going over and checking out Echo Sigma stuff, and I was thinking to myself, this is genius. And people don't realize it until they are in the situation where they need to, they then are looking back like, oh man, why didn't I have that? What else do you have?
Yeah, here's our most popular one. This is our 3-day get home bag. This is like a 3-day bag. It's got food and water in here. It's got a really nice steel flashlight, really nice multi-tool made by SOG. All these things you can see are so useful for so many different things. First aid kits in here.
Yeah.
We pack our food and water separately so it doesn't leak all over everything else. So it's all ready for you, and you can empty it out.
And what bag is this again?
This is our go bag, our 1 to 3 day get home bag.
So talk about the context. So, because that means different things for different people.
Yeah. So this is like you're always with your car, right? If you're working at home or you work not remotely and you're somewhere else, or you're always with your car. So this is something that should always be with your car because you're always with your car. Even if you're home in the garage, 3 days, anything happens, not anything, but a lot of things you need are going to be here for this. There's, all kinds of tools. We don't put batteries in our flashlight for they don't corrode. Like things like that. Like if it's sitting in here and we don't use it for 5 years, I don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
This way you solve that problem. Things like that.
And I think for what you're doing and all of the stuff that we've talked about, along with, some of the stuff that I've gone to the website and I've taken a look at, and obviously, had conversation with you, what you're doing with Echo Sigma and with these go bags and bug out bags is you are taking knowledge from not only what you've learned as a business but from other people and putting it into dumbing it down and giving a person confidence where, hey, if you have one of these, we've got you covered. And it gets down to the point where you're going to figure it out, because I get it. There's been many a times where, I've got flashlights in my drawer as a part of my, the lights go out.
Middle of the night, right.
In the middle of the night, lights go out, or it's daytime, it's becoming, dark and the lights are out, candles aren't enough, I need a flashlight. I go to the flashlight, I turn it on, it doesn't turn on. I unscrew the flashlight because the batteries must be dead, and then all of a sudden you've got all that white powder.
Then you drop the lens somewhere under the bed and you're like, now I can't find the top of the flashlight.
And something as simple as like, hey, we don't put the batteries in the flashlight, we pack the batteries separately. Makes sense.
Yeah, like this one goes in all of our bags. This is our compact survival kit.
Okay.
And this is going to be less than a pound, and this can fit anywhere, right? And so you have a notepad, and you have a blanket, and you have pens, you have light sticks, water purification tablets. Oh, let's see, how else can we start a fire? We have a magnesium starter. Oh, then we also have a Bic lighter in case the weather's so bad that the other two aren't going to work. And then here's some waterproof matches. Here's some duct tape, because duct tape we all know is
duct tape's important.
One of the best things.
Duct tape's important, and fire is important.
Fire's important.
So you just took like 1, 2, 3 forms of starting a fire.
Right. I mean, earplugs. You think, what am I going to use earplugs for? Well, There could be, I'm telling you, we were in Mexico in this really fancy hotel for a week, and there was this dripping behind the wall. And because I carry this, this is what I do, and I love it. My wife and I are going, we are not going to be able to sleep tonight. We called the maintenance for 2 days. They couldn't figure it out. They didn't have any other rooms for us. Let's just throw our earplugs in.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Well, I've been camping, right? And earplugs are now a normal thing for my my gear when I go camping. The wind is constantly flapping on the tent top.
Yeah.
Like if you want to rest and don't want to be, red-eyed for 3 days in a row, you got to put some earplugs on.
And the thing about what we're talking about right now, I mean, water dripping while you're staying someplace in Mexico or you got the tent flapping, it's not an emergency situation, but these things are coming in handy.
Yeah, sure. You don't know what you're going to need.
You never know.
So let me ask you this. This setup is for your car.
Yep.
And I could see that the fabric and stuff on here is super good quality. Is this does it have some type of, is it maybe not waterproof but water resistant?
Yes.
Spray with a little bit of silicone spray or something like that?
Yep. And all this, you can see the water's not going to get past those zippers. This is really, really high quality. There's a tent in here. I mean, you think
there's a tent in there?
Yeah, we have a tent in here. Trash bags. Trash bags. What a simple thing that, how many times are you in your car driving to Vegas and you have all this junk food you bought and it's just sitting in your car? Oh, I have trash bags. Let's keep it together.
I like it. So what is this more of a go bag or is this a bug out bag?
Go bag. Yeah, because you're wherever you're at, you're gonna kind of hang out there and hunker down, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Bug out, like you're probably getting out because it's getting a little bit crazier. The zombies are coming, or this is like aliens.
So let's see your zombie bag.
So, check the website. It's awesome. You wouldn't believe the things we have in that thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to ask you your other bag, the black
one
you have.
So I brought this is more along the lines with the show. This is our
look at all this stuff as it's coming out. Like junk. All of that stuff fits into the bag.
One little bag, yeah.
So when someone orders from Echo Sigma and they grab that bag, it's all inclusive.
Yes, and you can go on the website or on our social media and see how to put it all back together because it can be confusing. Yeah. And so we have a depackaging and a repackaging.
Yeah.
If you take it all apart, look at everything and go, how am I going to put it back? Got you covered.
I could see that happening because whenever I go on a trip and I got a bag packed and I'm really proud of the fact that like, oh wow, I was able to manage and fit everything in. However, once everything comes out and I try to put it back in, it's just like
that's when you're buying the extra luggage on the way back from the airport from all the things you bought, or the luggage won't fit back in there.
So how heavy is that? That green one?
This is 16 pounds.
16 pounds.
That's not bad at all.
And you take the water and food out, and you're down to 9.
I got you. Well, let's see the other bag.
This is going to be our Ranger bag.
Okay.
So this is going to be, this is our bug out bag that we use for twice the size of the Get Home. You're going to find bigger, badder tools. This one I put a bunch of cool stuff on to show you guys today. Put a bunch of our knives on the side, gun holster, mag clips. First aid's always going to be in here. Trauma kits, because if you're, like you said, you're shooting guns, someone's going to get hurt. So we have first aid kits in here as well as trauma kits with all the goodies. And they're all so pretty, right?
Nice,
they all just strap on. They're good quality, and you need it, you just clip it off and go.
Well, they're modular, right?
Yeah.
So you could I dig that. That's pretty cool.
You could customize.
Everything's customizable.
So you got some mag holders, you got your gun.
Yeah.
Let me fondle your bag.
That's what she said.
Bad knife on the right side here. You can check that one out too.
Fondle your bag,
That's what she said.
Langosta knows a little bit about big bad knives, huh?
I do. I like
It's
knives.
sharp, and if you do cut yourself, I have the stuff here to fix the problem.
I like a
So
little sog action.
that's a little folder. Yep.
Yeah, look at that.
Glass break by your end there. Glass break, right? Who carries a glass break? Guess what? You're driving down the street. You live in Long Beach.
Yeah.
You go off the bridge. You can't get out of your car. Windows are up. You can't open the doors. Glass break. Boom.
Well, I'll tell you what, like emergency response, and again, I can't stress enough how much everybody needs to be aware and be prepared, because you could talk to somebody and they could be talking about in just casual conversation, right? Just the middle of the week conversation. You got a beer going on, and it's just like, oh man, I got this emergency bag. It's got this. It's got that. It's got this. It's got that. The person on the other side of the table could be like, ha 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 ha. What are you talking about? What are you spending your money on? And then the exact next week, that same person that was laughing about being prepared is no longer laughing and saying,
that's my wife.
My wife should have
my wife
prepared.
Has a lot of laughs at my expense when it comes to the stuff that I have. She says, you just have all this crap. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be crap until you need it.
There's a purpose.
And then it's like, hey, do you have a Band-Aid? Yeah. Hey, do you have this? Hey, do you have that?
I think it's important to realize too that of all these survival goods, there's so many different uses for them.
There are.
That's the thing people don't think about.
Yep.
Like duct tape, right? I mean, we all know that has millions of uses. Okay,
Yep.
so here's a fun one. Chapstick. You got chapstick, right?
Yep.
You're in the cold
Yep.
weather.
Yep.
You got your jacket on and still can't get warm. You take your chapstick and you run it down your zipper. And it'll
That's
keep
right.
a little bit of
It
moisture.
lubricates it.
And it keeps the moisture in, or it keeps it out, so you stay a little bit warmer. Like little things like that. Like I would never think that chapstick is going to be, but as well as keeping you not chapped or lubrication as well.
And not only that too.
So he's got combat bandage. He's got shears. This is more compress for wounds, deep wounds. You got stuff to wrap. You got your Sharpie to mark your tourniquet. And then you've got, I like the fact that this is on its own deal, because this is like what I would consider a little bit more deep trauma.
Yep.
And then this is like
That's
your
just-
kids get scuffed.
Yep.
You need a little bit of, you got some abrasion stuff. You've got you would put your Band-Aids in here and maybe some of the other light gauzes and stuff like that. I like that.
You take the Sharpie and you get bit on a camping trip, right? What do you do with the Sharpie and you got bit? Any idea? You circle the wound where you got bit by
That's right. See if it
by an
gets
animal.
bigger.
See if it
Yeah.
gets bigger or not.
Yeah.
Right?
See
Things
if
like
you have a shock.
Yeah. It's simple, but stuff can save your life. Hey, it's getting worse. Okay, we got to get you to more medical treatment here. Or nope, it's stayed the same. Color's fine. We're not seeing any kind of discoloration. There's so many different uses for each tool out there.
Absolutely. I think people would dig.
If you don't know how to put that back, there's a video.
Yeah, there's video for that.
I think people would really dig the videos on how to use this stuff. I've probably taken 3 different classes for different stuff pertaining to medical type stuff, and at every class I've always added some stuff to my bag, mostly because I had no idea of what that would be. What is this?
That's where you're going to carry all your ammo and all your tools you need for your going shooting for the day.
Holy smokes! I'm gonna need a bigger one than this.
I'm just kidding. You're not kidding. Because in your go bag, you're going to need to carry like 4 different guns and 20 different calibers.
Like 70 pounds.
There you go. There's a good one.
Oh, look at that.
And that's a Gerber?
Yeah, that's the Gerber. Yep. Strong arm right there. That's one of our best sellers. That's got the partially serrated, which I think is so key to knives.
Yeah.
Have a partially serrated part.
Chris, you guys have like literally thought of everything so that when people really end up in that situation, they do not have to think. And that's really what I appreciate about Echo Sigma and everything that you're showing us here is the fact that, as all of these items and Langosta is undressing this bag,
good.
I'm like, I could see that. I could see that. We could use that. Yep, I've been in this situation where that would have come in handy, and it's not like any one of these bags are. You're not going to need. You may not need the whole bag. You could be in your house in a very light medical situation. Go to your bathroom cabinet and understand or realize that, hey, I'm missing this, and then have the light bulb go off and say, well, in the trunk of the car, I've got my bag. I know it's in there. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to use it. And then you could have those more real situations where it's like, oh shit, I really need A, B, and C, and all that stuff is there. This is, for me, talking with you, seeing all this stuff, I'm really coming to a realization that, I'll be honest, I am super underprepared. If I needed to get out quick, I don't have everything I need.
This is why you throw it in the car. So if you have one in your car, one in your wife's car, like these fires in LA a month ago, I heard so many interviews where they said, oh, it's 2 miles away. We had to evacuate, but it's not going to hit us. We're fine. And they come back and their house burned up.
There's nothing there.
And if you have 15 minutes, you don't want to think about this stuff. You want to think
No.
about your pictures, your passports, your IDs,
Yes.
your photos. That's already there. Leave that in the
Yes.
corner of your car. It takes up no space.
Yeah.
And it's got you covered.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. Just maybe for folks that are watching this for their awareness.
Yeah.
There's things here that you can't improvise. If you need a pressure bandage, a combat bandage like that, or this, which is for packing a deep wound, or a tourniquet, the idea that you're going to turn your belt into a tourniquet is you'll probably pass out before you get your belt off your waist.
Yeah.
It's not, you may not get the the pressure to be able to shut the flow off of water, of blood. Same thing here. A lot of times people will have just one little, this is what I'm saying, that you can't substitute some of the stuff. If you've got a deep wound and this is all you've got, that's just not enough.
Nope.
You need this.
Yep.
And you're talking about ripping your shirt off and stuffing it into the wound, hoping. Well, this material doesn't clot.
Right.
Nope.
This is like plastic, right? It just keeps going through. So there's just things that are in here that you won't be able to improvise during the emergency.
And if you go out and try to do it yourself, you can make a killer bag,
Yep.
but it is really hard to know what to get.
That's right.
We've had so many people go over and over our bags and say, that's great, but you know what? If you're thinking about weight and how much you're carrying, you don't want to carry that much. You don't need this, or you need to have this. You're missing a big piece here. And it can change from your scenario. We have urban survival, where things happen in cities, like sometimes up Oregon and Washington area, some of the cities get pretty crazy, and you're there for a while and you don't know what to do, right? Well,
Yep.
We have bulletproof vests and helmets and things, because survival isn't just about your car breaking down on the side of the road.
Right.
It can be so many different scenarios.
Well, you had mentioned earlier that you would help people create a custom bag, right? Based on the
I
context.
love that. That's my favorite part of my job.
Yeah.
Is call me and they say, I want to buy a bag. What do I need? What do I buy? I go, well, what are your needs? Where do you live? How long do you want to protect yourself for?
What are you interested in?
Right. Because we have like our Get Home bag. You can buy that, and you can buy the SOG Special Edition, which gives you 5 tools like that knife right there. And if you're the guy that loves your tools and you want 3 knives, a multi-tool, all these things, maybe that's your bag.
I dig this, man.
Yep.
This is pretty cool. So this is for like ammo and ancillary
Yep.
weaponry.
Yep, and that just fits in the back. And that's just our compact trauma kit that you were going through. Our bigger trauma kit has some Z-fold gauze for that gunshot that you talked about. And you got to stop that bleeding.
Yeah, I think one of the classes that I took, they actually had like a huge piece of beef and they were pumping blood into one of the arteries on the slab. It's amazing how much gauze you need to make it stop. You need a lot of gauze.
That sounds like a crazy course, but
Yeah.
puts you in like real life situations.
Yeah, you get shot with like a rifle round, you need a lot of gauze.
There's this course I'm gonna take later this summer where it's 3-day survival, and you have your clothes on your back and you have a knife, and they show you how to do it with just a knife.
Where's that at?
It's actually the Central Coast.
No kidding.
And I'm going to go take the class with a couple of my buddies and see what they're going to show you, because I live in the city and it's pretty easy where we are, right? But if
we take a lot of things for granted.
we do. When you drive to Vegas and you see how some people live, and they
Yeah.
have nothing between them and the next town.
Yeah.
And that'd be pretty crazy to go and hunt with just a knife and
Yeah.
making your own tools and cutting stuff up.
Well, that's the thing too. Like I'm putting myself in the situation that I'm currently in. But when you think of this on a much broader perspective, at a more 30,000 foot level, like there's a lot of towns, a lot of cities, a lot of states, a lot of places out there that don't necessarily have access to what we have access to, right? So I'd imagine that their frame of mind, their thought process is completely different from what I'm thinking about a go bag or a bug out bag is, right?
I had a guy call me from Alaska. He goes, hey, what if I just wanted to disappear? I go, what do you mean disappear? He goes, what if...
Did you run a background check?
No, I tried. I didn't get his full name. But he goes, can you make me a bag forever?
Whoa.
And I'm like, I mean, I guess if you tell me your shoe size, your clothes size, I can pack enough stuff. I mean, we have one of our bags 100 pounds.
Wow.
It's 100 pounds on wheels, and that's good for your family. And you just roll it out to the desert, and you just sit there, and you got everything you need. Women's toiletries, toothbrush, toothpaste, toilet paper, nail file, even a sewing kit. I mean, you name it, we try to think about it all. And you never know. So this guy, money's no object, and I needed to be able to like never come back to society. And so I ran this thing up, and it was something like $30,000 for
Wow.
this situation. And he ended up being as weird as he was on the phone when we first talked to him. So we never heard back from the guy, but it didn't take me too long to just do some homework on it. You know,
Interesting.
So what does this weigh?
This one-
without ammo, obviously.
you want the bag empty?
No, yeah, with the gear that you have so far. Because
Okay.
I think everything that's in there is totally justified for being in there.
So this is probably our second best seller minus the ammo stuff. We have, this is our get home bag. Take these off. You put double the food and water like I showed you earlier. It's 38 pounds.
Okay.
And that's going to give you 3 MREs. It's going to give you 3,600 ration calories and 40 individual waters.
Is there still room to put more stuff, or is that
Absolutely,
just about full?
because that's That's why we put it in cardboard. So it comes all pretty, and then you cut it open, and it takes half the space away.
Gotcha.
And I think a big key point that you're hitting on right now is 5 to 7 days, three meals, ration bars, not enough. It's how you ration it. When you're in that situation, you got to be thinking about how much you really need to take in your body.
You got to be smart.
When you're stressing out, you're eating, you're doing more than you should be doing, right?
Yep.
You got to reserve yourself and take it slowly.
That's a good point.
Well, it's a lot better than having a bag of chips and digging through what's in between the seats under the car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine the biggest problem is just that you don't have anything.
Right.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, this one comes with a full-size sleeping bag strapped on the bottom. That's how it's delivered to you. And it comes so it stands right up, so you can stand it up in your closet. And it sits there.
How much is this bad boy here?
So this one is going to be minus the whole part of the
the gun stuff.
The gun stuff. It's going to be $620.
Okay.
And if you want to add 5 tools to Spog Special Edition like this, 5 of these different kinds, it goes up to about $900.
Okay.
And that's going to be the most badass 38-pound, 39-pound bag any husband would want to have in their.
So what do you think weight-wise is like kind of the sweet spot you want to try and stay under?
16 pounds. Like our get home bag. That's kind of the number. But the difference is ours are a little bit heavier than everybody else's because we give you the water. We don't just give you the tablets to filter it, but we give you the water. Because I think that is such a necessity that you don't have that when you're out there. You can't think.
Well, you can go 21 days without eating, but you can't go more than 3 days without drinking.
Right. And if you have to make your own water and you don't know what to do, how to do it, because that's not your forte, you're not a survivalist.
Right.
Yeah.
And given the situation, you might not find water right away.
No, but when you make water, he's talking about making water out of plants and getting the dew that comes when you start crushing stuff. That stuff doesn't taste all that hot, and it's not a lot.
Yeah.
You need a lot of vegetation to make water.
You do.
need like a lot.
Yeah.
You basically make a hole, you put plastic over it, you put a weight, you put some type of device to capture it, and you stomp the crap out of the vegetation, and you let the sun hit it. And it starts to condensate on the plastic and you capture it, but I can't taste good.
No, and you got to go find the greenest bush you can find to say, I think the water's going to be near that bush because everything else looks dead, right?
So it's the context, depends on where you are.
We have this thing called the Life Straw. I'm sure you heard of them, and they are just incredible. Well, they just came out with a new one. It's literally the size. It's that thick, and it's a full size straw. Well, now it does 1,000 quarts, right? And it's a charcoal filter inside of it.
Okay.
There's nothing you need. It weighs half of an ounce. We just got them. We're one of the only providers for Life Straw locally that has them in stock. I just put them on our website 2 days ago. We've already sold 40 of them.
So you put those in your bags too?
Yep. You can buy those. That's a great add-on. And you go to these spots you're talking about, and you see a little stream. You're not going to touch that water. Well, if you have this Life Straw, you go right to it and you drink it.
Yeah.
You're not going to drink ocean water out of it,
but to your point, having the water, like it may not be a nice little semi-clear stream. It may be a skanky ass puddle that's muddy as shit.
Yeah.
And you're sticking that straw in there and you're sucking down on it versus carrying a little bit more weight and the water's already there. Like you may be putting off the inevitable. Like you may end up having to suck out of that little hole, that muddy hole, but you maybe postponed it for a couple days.
Yeah.
I think the other important part that we talked about is that, based off the amount of stuff that you have in the bag, when you eventually end up, or if you end up in the situation where it's like you never thought you were going to be there, instantly your mind takes over and it's like, okay, I need to ration, right? It's not like I'm going to be giving my girls each 2 bags of Cheetos and it's like, oh, you're hungry, here's a bag of Cheetos. Oh, you're hungry, here's another bag of Cheetos. It's like instantly everybody kind of comes to that emergency situation where that brain switches on. It's like, oh, we need to ration, and all of this stuff is going to get you through that situation. And I think the good thing about it is the fact that what you provide and what you've shown for us here is like, hey, just go ahead, check this out. This is all you need. This is the given situation. If you want to be prepared for scenario A, this is it for you. If you want to be prepared for scenario B, this is it. And oh, by the way, if you know what you want to be prepared for and you want to customize something and have something available that may not necessarily be in one of those bags that we're already offering, let's talk and let's get you through this and provide quality product for you, to ensure that you have that confidence if you end up in that situation.
That's a good point. On our website, we recently put new pictures on and all these upgrades, and now there's a good kit comparison page where you can look at the different sizes of what you get and how long it's going to last, as well as the scenario you're going through. Hey, hurricanes, tornadoes, okay, that's this part of the country. Here's a bag for that. earthquakes. Okay, it's more of a Cali thing. Here's a bag for that. And so we kind of tailor those to what you may need for your situation.
You know, I was driving from Miami over to Naples last week, and you go through the Everglades, right? And there's a road. There's a two-lane road going one way and two-lane road going the other way. And there's grass on both sides, and then there's the canal. Basically, on both sides of the road, it's just swamp. It's filled with crocs. Like, it's filled with crocs. If you get off the road, if you break down, there's definitely sections of it that are desolate. It's not a lot of traffic and stuff going through it. I would be like, dude, this would really suck to break down because the crocs are right there on the bank,
Right by the water you want to drink.
Right, yeah. Go in there with a little life straw and see how you wish that thing would have been like a hose.
That's when you're happy you have
You're
your
gonna
own
put the
water.
life straws, the alligators like
Look
ready
at all
to
the
trump
canal
on
water,
you.
and then there's like 70, crocs or alligators on the side of the canal. So I was just like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, my mind's kind of racing as you give me the context for different stuff. Where you're going to be traveling matters. The context of your mission specific adventure, right? What's your adventure going to be? Where's it going to be? Who's going to be there? And what would be the low hanging fruit that at least, if you're in a pinch for 5 or 6 hours, is going to make everybody's life a little bit better.
That's the thing. Our get home bag, what put us on the map, that's going to handle a vast majority of all survival situations. And then if you want to get real tricky and you want all the cool tools and all the extra first aid, you can get more. But that's going to be for hurricane, your school shuts down, your kids are locked down in there because something happened. We have active shooter kits we sell.
Yeah.
What's in your active shooter kit?
Well, we have a bag that'll cover the active shooter. If he gets killed or someone else gets killed, you can cover him up. We have handcuffs that are not heavy handcuffs. They're going to be like a real high quality zip tie that you can restrain him.
Like asp type of...
Exactly what they are. Exactly what they are. And then all kinds of first aid in there because you don't know what's going to come up.
Yeah.
Wow.
We hate to talk about it, but...
Well, that's the thing with emergency situations and being prepared is that you hate to talk about, and it's never one of those subjects. We could sit at home and talk about the Buffalo Bills losing again to the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, but what people aren't talking about is what you need when you really need it.
Yep.
And that's one of those things that where, a situation like the fires here in California that bring to the front of the mind. And the other part about it is that, unfortunately, when things like this happen, our minds kind of drift away with the news. Mm-hmm. So if it's at the top of the topics and the top story is the Eaton fire in Altadena and the Palisades fire, well, a week later when those fires kind of subside and nobody is no longer talking about it, well, you lose that frame of reference in regard to what you're thinking of, because we were thinking about go bags. We were thinking about emergency responses. But as those things kind of drifted off in the news, we kind of stopped thinking about that. So what I want to make sure that we're doing here is letting our viewers know, like, no, you cannot stop thinking about safety, right? It's got to be safety first always. And you've got to be prepared. And there's no price that I wouldn't pay if I were in a situation and did not have the necessary tools that I needed at that given point in time.
Yeah.
And you feel like such a hero, too. If you're with your family, you broke down, and your wife's a little nervous about what's going on. You have young children in the car.
Yep.
What are we going to do? And you come out the hero, even if you don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
You have the gear, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You can figure it out together. But if you have the stuff, she's going to look at you and go, I'm so glad you're prepared. You're ready for this.
So in regard to like the kits that you have and things like that, obviously everything, nothing ever beats time. So what do you do in regard to just time management of the emergency kit? So, when things start to kind of expire or things go bad, do you have things that, that people are able to tell, like, oh, I've got to get this replaced, I've got to get that replaced?
Funny you should ask. So the food and water is a 5-year shelf life. You can drink 7-year-old water. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But we recommend 5 years. So when you buy from our company, 5 years to the day, when buying our bag, you're going to get an email that says, hey, your food and water is probably about to expire. Here's a replenishment pack, $20 or whatever it may cost, depending on the size of the bag. And we'll ship you one just like this, and you slip it right back in your get home bag, and you're locked and loaded again.
Nice.
When I think about like the food being expired, I remember my wife's friend saying something like, this is like a few, I don't know, I think it was towards the tail end of the first Trump presidency. Where actually it was during the riots when they're rioting everywhere in Oregon and in Seattle and stuff, and we're worried about the crazies over here in California. The Lord knows we don't have a lack of crazies in California. But she was like, well, I got a thing of a cup of noodles, like from Costco. I'm like, what the do you think you're gonna do with that on the third day of eating that shit 3 times a day? Like you're gonna fucking stroke out. Like it's just like a bag of salt. Like what the are you talking about? That's not a game.
You're
plan.
dehydrating yourself more than anything.
Yeah, to me, it's just like it's bizarre, right? Like I had ordered what was that Wise? I think it was one of those buckets.
We sell those on our website.
Yeah, what is it called?
Wise Foods. Yeah,
Wise Foods. So I think I bought one of the chicken buckets and one of the beef buckets with rice and stuff like that. And I always have that in the RV. I have one of those in the RV. We, thank God we've never used it, but you'd be surprised how much food fits in that bucket. So I always figure if we need to go somewhere, we'll go in the RV, and if I'm in a pinch,
we just had this conversation literally last week. My wife and I. We lost my dad unexpectedly 3 years ago, and so I, as a kid, traveled cross country, and I've been to every state, seeing some amazing things by myself. So when he passed away, we bought a brand new RV, and we've hit 26 states in 3 summers.
Wow.
And so our conversation literally last week was, okay, in the RV, we already have our clothes. What other stuff do we need? So if this thing in LA happens to us, we jump in that, we attach the Jeep on the back of it, and we get out of Dodge, and we got a place to live. World will be fine. Yeah. These meals, 120 meals in our bucket, they last 30 years. Oh my God. Yeah. 2 or 3 of those, you're good for...
Yeah.
I've thrown away, probably a few $100 worth of food, just traditional food, pasta and rice and stuff. It just doesn't keep very long. So you got to try and cycle through it. But that freeze-dried stuff, it really is emergency food.
Yeah.
Right? Like
it's not going to be gourmet. You're not going to be chopping chives and sprinkling it or just like Salt Bay action.
Yeah, the alternative is a cup of noodles, which
in
my view is not an alternative at all. But you start locking up, it's not going to be good. You keep eating that for a couple of weeks. So, it's one of those things where I think I bought 2 buckets, 1 bucket for the RV, and I've got maybe 3 buckets at the house. And I figured like in 30 days of no food, I could sort it out. Like we'll end up being somewhere, right? Yeah. So, it's a balance of being cautious, right? And not going overboard. Because we did do that, and I kind of bought all this food, and I came to terms probably at the beginning of last year, and I had to throw away. I probably threw away $500-600 worth of food, and it's just probably dumb. Anyway, I think that the way that you plan for your meals, you plan for your bags, what you're going to take, I think it's important to give that some thought and see what is practical and what you can make sense of. Understanding that not having the things that are in either one of these bags are going to be big difference in outcomes, right? Like if you don't have a tourniquet, you don't have some of the more important things, you don't have water, and you're traveling in the desert. These are things that can make it or break it.
Yeah, no doubt. And Chris, just a question for you, right? Some people that as they're kind of going along and they're watching this or they're seeing this and they're just kind of doing the research in regard to the emergency kits, obviously some people may not be able to get everything, right? So what's that number one thing? Where's that starting point, that go point where you think that people, if you only have one thing, this is the one thing that you need, where would you push them toward?
Well, there's a couple ways of going at that question. For one, we offer a very simple version of our bug out or our get home bag. Yep. It's going to be like $150, and that's going to be your bare essentials. It's going to be all the things in this kit plus a backpack. You can put your own add-ons with it. Those are really, really good ways to start off, or you can go on our website and you can spend layaway, kind of a layaway thing like we used to do in the olden days, right? We have that option where you can make payments and you want a bag, but we'll ship it to you. You make that, we'll ship it to you the day after you order. And then there's another company that will go and we'll collect the money as you pay every month. And eventually you'll have it paid off. So that's another option.
Like a firm or something.
Exactly. It's called, it's just like that. Then if you talk about one specific product, that is a deep question. I try to think about what can I do the most with one thing, right? Like I think duct tape can be so many, you can make a cup out of duct tape, or shoes. And then you think food and water is just like a necessity. But if you already have the food and water, man, they always say fire, right? Like, yeah, it comes back to me to having fire, because there's something about sitting around a campfire. If you're down and out, there's something for your body that fire does that gives you courage and rejuvenates you. I don't know how to explain it, but having the way to make fire.
I agree, man. I would. There's nothing to disagree about that. I think a lot of people have been in that situation, and just you describing it, the fact that you have an ability to make, create, and be by fire is by far something that's super important.
Yeah. right? Got to be warm, and then you can purify water. You can do a lot of things with that.
Yeah.
You can cook your food. I mean, it's hard to beat that.
It's crazy. We were sitting here at the table when when you came by, and it was like, hey man, we're gonna be talking about this, we're gonna be talking about that, and time's gonna fly by fast. And I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been on for like
about an hour and 20 minutes. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to share with people?
I think it's what we've been kind of harping on the whole night. Like, don't be reactive, be proactive.
Yep.
Go get what you need. Take care of your family, because family's first, right?
Yeah.
If your family's covered, I mean, life is good. We all struggle with, maybe it's the bills or our job or whatever it may be, but you take care of your family. This is a really, really good purchase that's going to do that for you. No questions asked.
And in terms of like Echo Sigma, how can people get a hold of you? Are there any limits to where you'd ship?
No, we ship worldwide. We answer the phone whenever you call. This drives me nuts. So many companies now, you order something and you got to chat or send an email. You can't talk to anybody. We're old school. We'll answer the phone every time. We'll help you, walk you through it. On our website, you can chat with us, or if you don't want to call us, you can do email as well. But we're very resourceful because we know this is a serious thing. People don't know what to do when these things happen and what to buy. And so we really want to make it not so overwhelming, because it can be really overwhelming because we have a lot of different options on our bag.
I think that it's good to start somewhere. Like it could be a little bit overwhelming when you think about like all the different things that you need. So maybe if you just start with one of your bags with the basic essentials, like you said, and then you add to it, right? Like based on where you're going to go and what the context is of where you're going to be. I think that's probably a very reasonable starting point.
And if you think of this as like an impulse purchase, then be impulsive now. We've all been in the situations where it's like, oh, press that buy button, like do it, and you'll never regret it.
Yeah.
Is what I think when it comes to emergency kits, go bags, bug out bags.
This is that really fun gift that you want to buy as a husband for your family that your wife's not going to give you a hard time about, because she sees the value as well once the going gets tough, right?
And Chris,
No doubt.
The thing is that they won't buy it themselves. Like I've had to buy a lot of stuff over the years, and I'm like, hey man, carry that. Hey man, put that in your car. Hey, listen. And I feel like a nagger, right? Like, but it's like, I understand. I've been broke. My car's broken down. I've gone very isolated hunts where it was me in the tent for a week, and I had to do everything. I had to draw water, go do all that stuff. And so I understand the potential for hardship when you don't have some very basic things. And it's a big difference in the level of uncomfort / panic / hardship from not having some very basic tools, some very basic resources. And if you're telling me that you're putting together your basic bag starter is what? How much?
$150 for our nucleus, and that's going to be just the basic stuff, and you can add to it,
Yeah. I think the next thing to build on that is for folks to get a little bit of training, get a little medical training, because you have to be able to use it, right? Like if you open this thing and you don't understand what's for what, or how to put a compression bandage on, how to pack a wound, how to do some very basic medical stuff, you're in a pinch. My daughter luckily wants to go to medical school, so I bought her a suture kit so she knows how to suture.
We have suture kits.
Yeah, but she actually knows how to use it. I'm going to cheat and use the kits that are with glue and the pressure bandage.
I'll ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, right, we rely so much on ChatGPT or Google to do all these things, but if we're out, like, let's be honest, I have a younger generation children, right? And they rely on that for everything, right? So if they don't have that, they can't live. Like, I mean, they look for Google to, how do I scramble eggs? Like, they don't have that necessity. Like, this is old school.
That's a reality too.
Right on.
So, Chris, thank you very much for joining us. I think this is a great episode. It brings to light so many different situations, and it brings to light, how we all need to kind of think of emergency preparedness. So in terms of Echo Sigma, how can people get in touch with you via the website, social media, all that type of stuff?
Yeah, we answer everything. We answer all of our social media. We have a phone line that, like I said, we will answer right there on the top of our website. There's my family right there. We'll answer every call. Whatever you need, we're there to help you. We're supporting these fires in LA. My son and daughter and I were up in LA 2 weeks ago and donating the day and passing out food and water. And I mean, we're here to help. This is our world. We we have to be present for these kind of things and it's crazy how many people come together when things like this happen, which is just so admirable. It just gets you every time.
Oh yeah, and the feeling is priceless. So what's the website?
It's our website is www.echo-sigma.com, and you can go on there, and there's so many options. And if you get overwhelmed, call me. I'll answer the phone.
Okay, and social media?
Social media, we're on Facebook, Instagram. We have a lot of YouTube videos that'll show you how to use these things to depackage, to repackage, whatever you need. You got to check out our wolf coats online. A good buddy of mine was just on Shark Tank 2 weeks ago, and we sell these coats. It's a snowboard jacket. They're called Wild Coat. You got to check it out. They're unbelievable. The hood is going to be a wolf or a tiger or a bear, and they're not cheap, but they are a really, really cool snowboard jacket that are like, they just got a deal on Shark Tank. They're going to be big.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And again, Chris from Echo Sigma, and really appreciate the stuff that you guys are doing again here locally, because we're all about being local. And, you know, what's taken place over the past few weeks in regards to the fires has just been absolutely devastating. And I know a lot of people out there are wanting to help. So if you are wanting to help, we have the Eaton fire that took place in Altadena and Pasadena, along with the Palisades. And there were other fires as well. How you can help: the American Red Cross of Los Angeles. You can always check them out online. LA Regional Food Bank, the World Central Kitchen, California Fire Foundation and Disaster Relief Fund, the Cal Fire Benevolent Foundation, Dream Center. We've got a whole list of how you can help, and we'll provide links. So important. No one ever thought that they'd end up in the situation that they're currently in. And unfortunately for us, you know, here in Southern California, in the Pasadena, Altadena area, Palisades area, and so forth, so many people affected. And they're people like us, right? People that have families, people that have friends, people that never thought in their lifetime that they'd end up in this situation. You know, everything that they've worked for, taken away instantly. So if I were ever in that situation, I'd want to be sure that I could count on, you know, my fellow community to help out. So it's our turn to make sure that we help out. And for those of us that have not been in that situation but could possibly be in there, Echo Sigma, Chris and the team are, you know, there to help you prepare. So thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you guys for having me. This has been an awesome time.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thanks very much.
No doubt. So like and subscribe. We are Rifles, Rods, and Broads. Thank you very much for tuning in. And again, don't forget, we are going to be going live the first Tuesday of every month.
That's right, guys. Stay tuned. Like and subscribe. Do it now.